how nice is it to jump back into managing a hockey team after some time there away?
Well, it's incredibly satisfying to be back and involved with an American Hockey League team, and particularly satisfying to be involved with this one, which is run like a finely tuned machine. And to have the ability to come into the Toronto Marlies after they'd won a Calder Cup is a tremendous thing for someone in my position.
Not a daunting task at all, is it, to jump in after a championship?
You know, I was asked that question. Larry Tannenbaum asked me during the Calder Cup final, how did I really feel about the team potentially winning? And my answer, because he said it was going to make it harder on me when I assumed the position, but you know, you get so few opportunities to win anything in this business, and you know, the benefits that get garnered by the players and the coaches and the entire organization is such an amazing thing that I told him, hey, if we can win it, we should win it, and I am thrilled to be here now and to try and win it again.
What do you see as the most significant difference between a team that has won and one that, you know, hasn't taken home the championship?
I think the biggest thing that you see is confidence. You know, when you look at our players and our coaches as they go about doing their jobs every day, there's this quiet confidence that exists from having been through the wars, having climbed the mountain, as the expression goes, and knowing what it takes to win every night.
How surprised was management that both McElhaney and Pickard got claimed? I mean, that was a big strong point for this team last year.
Well, I mean, that's the way the system operates, and we knew that there was a possibility that one or two could get claimed, and any time you put a player on waivers, you know that it's a possibility, and with goaltending, it's a situational thing in many instances. Injuries occur, teams have needs, and that's the way it goes. The system dictated itself and kept those players in the league.
Did Justin Peters go with the organization, or was he released?
No, we released Justin from his PTO before we signed Jeff Glass.
What about it? Have you noticed I mean, you mentioned it was a finely tuned machine. What about this organization stands out to you in terms of how it operates?
Well, there's such a high degree of professionalism that starts, you know, if speaking about the Marlies, it starts with Sheldon Keefe and his coaching staff, extends to Chris McKegg and the trainers, and Rich Rottenberg and Jordan Obi on the medical side. All the way through, there is a high degree of accountability, a high degree of professionalism. I've been around a lot of teams and a lot of organizations, and it is not surprising to me that this organization won a championship last year based on the people that are comprised of this group.
How do you then take what Kyle built and put your own sort of stamp on it? What do you envision for the team in terms of?
Well, truthfully, you know, I think my biggest task is not to screw it up. You know, it is a well-run ship. I have the benefit of coming in here, and I don't have to reinvent the wheel. All the people that are here, the players know their roles, the people that do their jobs, whether it's the coaches, the trainers, the medical people, everyone knows their roles, and my job is to come in and lead, and good leaders let people do their work. You know, you're there to support them, but at the end of the day, people have to work and people have to grow, and this is, as I said, is an organization that's really comprised of competent people.
What's the biggest difference at this level compared to when you were with San Antonio?
Well, it was a long time ago that I was with San Antonio. This, and I don't mean any disrespect to San Antonio or any of the other organizations that I was with, but this is a different entity at the American Hockey League level. It is a very big operation. It's a very complex operation. The staff is a lot bigger. The way that it operates is done on a grander scale. This is very much like a National Hockey League team in the way that it's operated.
How did you go about learning? I mean, I'm sure you took time over the summer to learn about some of these guys. What was that process like?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, as the Marlies were I got hired in the end of May, and the Marlies were en route to the Calder Cup final, and I felt it was important to observe from a distance. And to allow the process to unfold naturally, let Kyle, as the general manager of the Marlies, enjoy the process. So I didn't integrate myself until a little bit later, and you know, the players had scattered by that point because it had been a long haul for them, and it's taken me a few months to kind of get up to speed and get to know everybody, including the players and including the staff. But everyone here has been extremely gracious to me. They've made my job extremely easy, and I am absolutely thrilled that this season is finally underway.
Sam Gagner is an interesting addition. Why is he here instead of with his own farm club?
Well, I can't speak for the decision that the Vancouver Canucks made. That's something that Jim Benning would have to comment on. From our perspective, it was a no-brainer to grab Sam Gagner. I mean, really, when you have a player that has his caliber of productivity, and I know Sam a little bit because I worked with his father in Vancouver. I know what kind of a tremendous human being he is. He can play as a #1 center, a #1 distributor here, and really bringing in a player, a veteran of this caliber, is really an extension of our player development program. He's there to make the young forwards on our team, like Adam Brooks or Jeremy Bracco, better, whether that's making them better by distributing the puck to them in places where they can put it into the net, or watching him go about plying his trade day after day as a highly skilled professional.
Is part of that meant to supplement some of the guys you lost, Ben Smith, Miro Altonen, and a bunch of guys to the Leafs?
For sure. The veterans that comprise your roster are so critically important to the culture of your organization. And if you can add guys that are not just great in the room, but great on the ice, it will in turn make everybody better, and it lifts your whole organization up. So that's why, as I said, when the opportunity came up to grab Sam Gagner, we didn't think twice about it.
Is there a sort of timeline for how long he's going to be around the team?
Well, we don't have control over that. The Vancouver Canucks retain the right to control him whenever they want. We do have an understanding with them and an agreement that if they're going to send him back to the American Hockey League, it will be to us. But at the end of the day, he is their property, and they have the right to recall him whenever they want.
How involved are you in the Nylander negotiations right now?
That's not something that I'm in the position to comment on. I'm here to talk about the Marlies, and that will be the extent of it.
But you must play a role in it. Kyle's mentioned in other interviews that he's leaned on your experience in these matters.
Well, Kyle runs a very collaborative operation. He's a very good manager in that regard. He's exceptionally bright, and it's amazing, notwithstanding the fact that I'm a little older than him, I learn from him every day. But any of the nuances that are going on with that negotiation, it's not appropriate for me to comment on at this time.
How have you found working with Sheldon in the early days here?
It's interesting. I know Sheldon. I knew Sheldon a long time ago. He played for our organization when I was with the Coyotes very briefly in Utah, and I hadn't seen him in since 2005, I think it was. But our relationship has grown fairly close, fairly quickly. We have a tremendous amount of mutual respect for each other. He's a Calder Cup winning coach, so it's not like I'm going in and questioning the way he does his business. And as it stands normally, I mean, I'm a strong believer that players play, coaches coach, managers manage. But Sheldon and I have gotten along incredibly well together. It's been a good relationship to start, and I expect it's only going to be better as time goes on.
What's the best way to handle guys like Borgman and Rosen who flew over here and probably have NHL aspirations, maybe more so than AHL?
Well, every player who's here has NHL aspirations, irrespective of where they came from or how old they are. The job for someone like me is to support, well, it's really to support everybody, but in the context of the players, it's to give them the tools that they can use to get to the National Hockey League as fast as possible. Now, there may be times along the way where those players aren't getting to where they want to get to as quickly as they would like, and it's my job to give them a little bit of older advice or to maybe push them at some point. But to my experience thus far, every player here on this organization has been happy to be here, but clearly has an eye on playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs at some point.
Is there any update on Rasmus Sandin?
I do not have an update on that Rasmus Sandin.
I imagine you're also involved in the Growlers. How do you think you might be able to take advantage of that relationship?
Well, the Growlers clearly are an extension of the player development department of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization, and you can look at one player in particular in Mason Marchment, who this club signed last year to an American Hockey League two-way contract. Our player development staff put a great deal of time into his game. He put a great deal of time into his game at the ECHL level, as well as here. And now he's at the point where he's a bona fide prospect on an NHL entry-level contract. We see the exact same model, the exact same paradigm working with the Growlers. We have our staff. We hired the staff for the Growlers, where you have Ryan Clough and John Snowden on the bench. We hired the trainers as well. Our development staff will be there. In a salary cap world, it's incredibly important to develop players so that you have a young pipeline of efficiently, salary players that can come in, and we are going to be devoting a great deal of time and energy. I'll be there for their opener on Friday night, so if you want to check with me afterwards, I'll let you know.
Will you have a captain here this year?
That's an evolving situation. We went with Sheldon went with 3 alternates to start the season. I think it will probably continue that way for a while. If someone emerges at some point that is ready to take on the captaincy, I assume that will occur. But at this point, we're taking it day to day.
When you
What
were
was
with
the
the
most eye-opening or surprising thing you learned working right within the league office?
Well, I didn't work directly in the league office. I worked for them on a committee to help them design the rules for the expansion draft, which was an absolutely fascinating project and one that I was incredibly fortunate to participate in. I can tell you from my experience there that the National Hockey League cares deeply about all of its franchises, not just the expansion teams that are coming in, but the 30 teams that were in existence, how their interests were going to be protected, and how everything would be balanced. You know, I've had a lot of experience with Gary Bettman, Bill Daly, Colin Campbell in the National Hockey League over the years, and it is an incredibly well-run business that cares about their players, cares about their owners, and cares about the game of hockey.
Were you surprised as the
Are you
ref?
cheering for the Seattle situation a little bit?
I'm sorry?
Are you cheering for the Seattle situation to work out? Or?
You know what? Right now, my blood is blue and white, and I'm not really looking. I want one thing. I want to get my name on the Stanley Cup, and I'd like to get my name on the Calder Cup.
Were you surprised as the rest of us at just how far the Knights went, considering you're involved in that process?
Well, I felt that the Knights were going to be a very competitive team. That at the end of the process, whether it was through the rules of the expansion draft itself or the deals that they were going to be able to cut, that they would be a team that was going to be competitive on a nightly basis. I think George McPhee and his staff deserve a tremendous amount of credit for how efficiently they managed the situation. The asset harvest that they yielded was unprecedented, and I did not anticipate that they would be losing in the Stanley Cup final, that is for sure.
What did you think of the Marlies opening so far over just a couple of games?
It's gone the way I figured it would go. It's always hard for a team that has gone that far the prior season. You know, you deal with fatigue, both physical and mental. It's a very short summer. I'm not surprised the work ethic the team has put forth. We've played 2 games. You know, in the American Hockey League, they're back-to-back. The second game we played was against a team that hadn't played yet. So it didn't surprise me that our energy level wasn't quite the same the second night that it was the first. But this is a tough league, and it's a very competitive league. And, you know, all things considered, I think our team started well. I expect our team is going to be very good tonight as well.
When you were with the Canucks, a lot of your experience with contract, CBA, that sort of thing. How much does that experience help you in this situation?
Well, I've had a broad-based level of experience in my National Hockey League career. It all helps. I mean, you know, fortunately in this organization, Brandon Pridham is the point person on the contract negotiations and salary cap matters. He's as sharp as anybody I've encountered. I've known him for 15 years. I think this organization is lucky to have him. My job is to lend a hand wherever that may be, whether that's helping Brandon on that front, or more importantly here on the Marlies or on the player development side or with our research and development department.
Speaking on Vegas, one takeaway, I guess, in a media perspective is that their success was largely driven by roster fringe players who were put in a position to succeed that they might not usually have been. Has that elevated to a managerial level at all, that sort of takeaway?
Well, you'd have to ask NHL general managers that question. I think as an observer of how that process went, I think you looked at a team that picked players with speed and hockey sense, and had a coach that was well aligned with personnel, and it was pretty entertaining hockey, and I think it's hockey that people want to emulate.